you go out and you drive that car as hard as you can for 2.5 hours and hope you can keep it together.
Yeah.
And if you don't do the diligent work back in the shop, your chances of that are going to go way down.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Dirt Drive Podcast. We're going to do this one a little differently. I kind of flubbed the interview at the end of this episode.
We're still learning.
It's not bad. I enjoyed spending time with Tad Dowker of NorthShore Race Works. Cool guy. Had a bad break in the race, but he actually got back out there.
That was like 100 feet off the starting line?
I don't think it was 100 feet off the starting line. I think it broke driving out to the race, or it was broken in the pits. Now Odin decides to be crazy.
Oh, jeez. Okay, that's got to hurt.
But yeah, I think he broke his throttle cable in the pits or pre-running or something. He just had to make the start line, so he just idled that to the start line and pulled off immediately. That's what I assume happened. I didn't talk to him.
Okay.
But so we're here with Tom. It's been a while since we've been together.
Oh my God, I'm being mauled by your dogs.
I honestly think at this point it's been 5 weeks since we've had an episode with maybe more than that.
Yeah, it's been a little crazy with the babies.
The babies and everything.
The babies in the shop. I mean, things are... It's the end of the summer. It's middle of the summer. Whatever, however you want to look at it. We're just shop slammed. I mean,
yeah,
it's not. It's all right. Those weren't my sunglasses or anything, Odin.
Yeah.
Welcome to another shit show of the Dirt Drive.
We're outside at my house again. We haven't been. We built this nice studio.
No,
we got. Odin, get down.
Being mauled by your dog.
We built this nice studio.
Your tongue is so hot,
and we haven't touched it. We haven't officially used it.
We did. We technically did.
That episode did not get aired though.
Oh, it's not going to get aired?
No, the episode where you guys
Facebook Marketplace
the Facebook Marketplace where you guys gave
your idea.
Yes, so we've done it before.
What did you think was going to happen?
We always gave context about what we were talking about.
We tried.
There was no context. I listened to this. I'm like, oh, this will be fun. I listened to the first few minutes. You guys didn't introduce yourselves. You guys didn't do anything. I'm like, oh man, I can't do anything with this.
We were not sober.
But yeah, that was the last time. That was episode 62, the one I replaced with Bernie's. This will be 66? Right. I don't know.
It doesn't really matter at this point.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everything's been good. Like all the Ultra 4 stuff has been really sitting in the front of my brain these days.
And in the front of my brain too. I'm trying to figure out, like, I want to go to one more race this year before Hammers.
It's gonna be hard.
I'm looking at Havasu.
Oof.
Flights are like $300.
That's expensive.
To California?
It's Arizona.
It's the Arizona-California border is where Havasu is.
Right.
But
that's
I'm looking at Havasu.
An expensive flight.
It is an expensive
especially
flight.
When like
we're paying
be 2 months out from
going to SEMA. Not SEMA or Hammers. Yeah, I've been playing with the idea of maybe trying to get out to Havasu.
I mean, it would definitely be that's got to be a nice venue. Like Havasu's an awesome place.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing powerboat racing. They're doing Ultra 4. They're doing all. I mean, like I'd have to look at the actual lineup, but they're doing a ton of shit. The Ultra 4 stuff is like
that would be a fun trip.
Ticked into my blood now.
The problem though, if you fly out, like you're either Uber or rental car.
Yeah.
And then where you staying?
Yeah,
because that's not going to be a cheap weekend.
No, I'd have to find a buddy who races on the West Coast and tag on, and be like, hey, I can bring a sleeping bag and a pillow.
Yeah,
you got a place for me to lay my head.
You got a cot you can throw in the back of the rig or something.
I mean, that's pretty much all I did with George. Is I'm like, hey, I have a tent.
Yeah, but that was an hour and a half away.
Yeah, it was 2.5 hours.
Oh, sorry, 2.5.
Not bad. But how's life with the baby?
Good. Everybody's good. Everybody's happy, healthy. He's already a fan of Dirthead Dave.
Oh, nice.
It's one of the few YouTube channels that keeps his attention
for some reason.
Yeah.
Is he going by Guy? Is that what you guys?
No. It'll be Tommy.
Okay. I like Guy. I'm all about the Guy.
Carrie likes Little Guy. She's been calling him Little Guy.
That's what I call Brian.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at this point, I think the baby's almost as big as Brian.
Yeah, it's a big baby.
Yeah. No, everything's good. We're settling in. Being home for a couple weeks, I actually got a bunch of work done on the YJ.
Is it running?
No, I ran into so when the original slapped together for test and tune, I didn't put all of the exhaust manifold bolts in because I didn't want to fight them. So I was like, all right, like I'm putting it together completely this time, and realized there's one of the OEM studs left, and it's not allowing the aftermarket header to shift over like the 16th
You can't
of an
grind.
inch.
You're gonna grind it out.
I just got to bring the stud extractor home from the shop and yank the stud out, and then just put all aftermarket bolts in.
So you're what, 2 hours from running? 2 hours of garage time?
Yeah, and then I mean I gotta redo the radiator mount brackets because they were hodgepodge booger welded together, so I can redo all that. Fix the wire. I'm gonna run new battery cables and just like generally clean up the wiring because I basically have an entire harness, like body harness out of a Grand Cherokee, like tucked under the hood of that, and I only need like 15 of the 200 just wires.
Cut it all apart.
Yeah, I want to get it running before I start trimming the harness down, so I can like
you know what you need.
Yeah, snip a wire if it shuts off, reconnect it, and go about my day.
Solder shrink it together.
Yeah, that's basically my plan. I'm trying to remember to film most of it for YouTube.
Have you filmed any of it?
Yes.
Oh, you have?
I did.
I'm impressed.
I did not film the day that I put the heads on, but I did film like basically the teardown, starting to put it back together, cleaning stuff.
Yeah.
I just kind of got like the itch one day, and next thing I knew, the motor was together.
That's the hardest part. Like the people that like I don't want to say so-called because that's what they are, but the content creators.
Yeah.
The hardest part about content creation is
the content.
It's capturing the content.
Yeah, that's a better way to look at it. Like if money wasn't an issue, I would just hire somebody to follow me into be like, hey, I'm working on the Jeep today. Like, just come film me and ask me questions so I get talking. Like that's what we need.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously putting the cart before the horse, but
yeah, one of the guys I was with, I cannot remember his name for the life of me. He works for George, and he he works for George, and he helps on the race team. I can't remember his name.
That's bad. You should
I'm really bad with names. But he was saying the whole weekend, it's like, man, I can't wait till I can start filming and doing this. I'm like, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
You just got to put a phone in your hand.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the advice we always got was just do it. Like, you just have to be deliberate about the phone, the GoPro, whatever it is, and just do it. I mean, it's still a lot of work, and I think, I've got 15 years of wrenching at this point.
And you just get so stuck. You're like, I just need this. And you're like, oh, no, I forgot to turn the damn...
I was going to say, even if I set the camera up and hit record, like, remembering to, like...
Put it together and be like, oh, shit, like, I should explain this or do an up-close of this. Like, the video would just be a 5-minute time lapse of 3 hours in the garage, which would be really and put it together is also really hard because then you have to learn how to do that. It's a lot of time spent on YouTube and everything.
Yeah. So I just need to keep playing Mega Millions and
maybe we'll hire someone one day.
Yeah.
Or
if anybody's listening and wants to be our film crew, like, we're pretty confident we'll be able to pay you eventually.
We're paying to get ourselves to places now.
Yeah.
We may be able to pay you eventually. Get into the ground level. Come on, start interning with the Dirt Drive podcast.
Right. Oh, that's what we should do. Yeah, it's an internship. There's got to be like is there still like a AV club in high school and like?
Oh, definitely.
Like, do you think we could?
But those kids are all making TikToks.
Yeah, we can't even do that. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we need to go hit up like the high schools or the community college.
We're going to go to the high schools.
No, we're offering an internship. We're a media company now.
Fair.
We're an off-road media lifestyle company.
I don't like the word lifestyle. The word lifestyle, like when people ask what we cover and stuff, I'm like, oh, we're a lifestyle. It sounds pretentious.
Yeah,
it is true though.
I think it is like the industry term from the media side of it.
Yeah,
but I'm with you because like we're not. It's not really a lifestyle.
We don't really do anything else.
Like
we just talk about what we're living.
I would like it to be our lifestyle. I would like it to be, a twice a week podcast and a weekly trip and a weekly YouTube video and just building cool shit all the time. I mean, it's not necessarily not going to happen. It's just.
So are you still looking good for hammers? You still think you'll be able to make it?
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a few people drop out when it actually comes down to it.
Yeah,
I think PJ and Trevor will be tough. I think Trevor will try and make it. I assume he'll fly out halfway through. Yeah,
I mean he's pretty dead set on it.
Is he?
I know PJ is dead set. I think a lot of it will come down to the logistics side of it.
I mean, shutting the business down for 2 weeks is going to be hard.
Yeah, I think we really got to narrow down the dates so we can plan ahead for it. Figure out, the drive is the part that gets complicated.
Yeah,
because it's a 3-day drive there and back. That's a week.
Yeah.
So then how much time do we want to spend?
And I was told by people up at the races you don't want to spend less than a week there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's
which a week on the lake bed sounds miserable. Because it's gonna be freezing cold at night and hot as shit during the day.
Yeah. Well, it's probably not gonna be that hot during the day, but it's gonna be warm.
Yeah.
You're gonna go from a Carhartt and jeans
to t-shirts,
huddled around a fire pit, to t-shirt and jeans, and trying to find some shade.
Yeah. I'm hoping. But
yeah.
I know the one thing I know is that I know I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I don't know who else is going to go, but I'm confident that I will be there. I'm super stoked for it.
Yeah, I think with the goal and the idea of us building a car, I think we have to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a matter of figuring out who, what, when, and where.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the events for the rest of the year too.
Yeah.
Overland Expo. We will be at Overland Expo East.
Yep.
We may be in a booth. We're working on that.
Yep.
If we are going to be, it'll be the Skinny Guy booth. Shout out to Skinny Guy.
Yeah.
Stop by and say hi. We may have a banner up if they let us put a banner up. And
yeah, I was one way or the other, we're hanging out there. It's just the logistics of the camping side of it. If we're camping with vendors or camping personally, that's
I guess camping with vendors is a thing.
Yeah.
Now they have all those tents in the vendor area. People actually sleep in them.
Yeah. It's I think that was the wild part for us last year with that first expo. Was wow, this is just like a rooftop tent expo.
Yeah.
And then you're walking around and somebody's taking their 30-minute break and just napping in the rooftop tent
that's on display.
That's on display. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a bad weekend.
No. And then I'm going to, I think it's the weekend, 2 weekends after, I'm going to Cape Lookout with the F-Bomb Overlanders. I got invited to go out there. And then it's just pretty much saving money for
hammers.
I'm looking forward to it. The Ultra 4 stuff is a real big itch. It was so much fun, and I'm really looking forward to going out and doing that again. And I will, I guess we'll be there as a crew this time. We'll have some cool interviews from.
The timing of Reading was not great. My kid was literally born the Thursday of race weekend.
Yep.
So I spent that weekend just watching on my iPad in the hospital, holding my newborn.
Well, the funny thing
which was really not a bad weekend. I'm not gonna lie.
From being there, everyone watches the races on their iPad because it's so big. I could see the final rock section where I don't know the final rock section.
It's not like NASCAR where you can
finish.
sit up in the bleachers and see the whole race. You're just seeing bits and pieces of it, and it's not. I think you from a spectator standpoint, you really have to appreciate what they're doing. You have to be kind of in the hobby or in the sport to get it. Because that was Grady Carey wasn't in the most excited moods recovering in the hospital, but she was so they just drive over. She's like, it's just what you guys do at the Cove, but they're racing. And I was like, yeah, but it's this and this and this. And I'm trying to explain, oh, you got to take this line. And they force you into this. You have to stay within these parameters and do this. And she's like, so it's just like a weekend at the Cove, but with
$100,000 million race cars.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but what if I told you I could win a lot of money from that Big Dogs weekend? And she was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
I guess I think it was the 44 winner left with 25 grand.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other classes leave with, but I think that was a check for 25 grand at the end of the weekend.
Sounds about right.
I left. So as soon as that rainstorm happened, that I don't know who watched, anybody watched. I was in the Jeep on the highway.
Smart.
I finished my interview with Cameron and I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to head out. I couldn't find George anywhere. Yeah. He was walking around because, they got stuck on that obstacle. He was walking around socializing and I'm like, I don't mean to ghost, but
Well, yeah, I mean,
I'd like to leave before this rainstorm starts.
Yeah, and they've got way more logistics to pack up. You have a
Well, they still hadn't got the car off the track.
right. You've got a Jeep and a tent and yourself. Hi, puppies.
There are no dogs. I should have brought a dog. There was lots of dogs. Oh, you're gonna get all tangled up. Yeah, it was a ton of fun. I can't wait to do it again. I'm going to reach out to Tad again, and I'm gonna be in a better place mentally.
Yeah.
When we when we interview him again, or when we have him on as a guest again. I just got so burnt out, and you can hear it in the upcoming interview. Is I'm just I'm not a bouncy guy.
It's a long weekend.
It's a long weekend. I was there. We did this Friday afternoon. I got there Wednesday night because I didn't know what to expect. Legacy was supposed to get there Wednesday night. They had car issues, which we actually ended up fixing. They thought it was a fuel issue. Ended up being a dead miss because of a wet plug.
Yeah, that'll happen.
So we diagnosed that on the practice laps, changed that, and then after that, in the when was that? Yeah, we practice ran the lap, and then I interviewed him and Cameron, and then as during the interview, Tad called me. He's like, "Hey," I didn't answer. I had to call him back. He's like, "Hey, I'm ready," and I'm like, "Oh, I just wrapped up like an hour. I've been cranking all morning. I was up the night before with Miles till 11 o'clock.
Nice.
And I was just not the best off, but that's my fault. Learning how to manage the whole thing. It was a ton of fun though. I think it's the dogs. But yeah, we didn't do any I wouldn't want to do a sponsor read too before we got started. Maybe I'll just drop one in. I'll just drop one in right before this.
It's a good transition into part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So enjoy the episode with Tad. It was a ton of fun. Tad, I'm sorry I did such a shitty job with the interview. To everyone else, it's still a good interview. I was just disappointed with myself. Still had a lot of fun. Thank you to everyone at Reading. I said it right that time.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone at Reading. Thank you to everyone that I talked to and met with. Shout out to George, Cameron, Jarrell Dumford, and Peyton Dumford with obviously Dumford Racing and,
you guys
and Dirt Princess.
Nerds. Wow.
It's all up here.
Notes.
I met with Eric Miller. He invited me out to the shop, so we will get an interview.
I'm not missing
with him. Oh yeah, you got to come to the shop.
You have to schedule that around me. I don't care. I don't care what it is.
Yeah. So
I don't care if it's a Tuesday morning. Or
he was on my schedule for Friday. He ended up getting so busy. He was shooting videos with Optima and doing race stuff, prepping cars. Because not only was he racing his car, but he's Miller Motorsports, so he was making sure that every other Miller car there was ready to run because it's a look back on him. Big B, Rusty Blyler, and Justin Blyler. I know it's Rusty and Justin. Shout out to you guys. You guys were super welcoming. All the video I shot from the pit where there were actually no cars came through because everyone broke. Yeah. I was standing in the Big B pit.
Okay.
What else? I don't know. I'm just looking forward to going out again.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for them to expand into the East Coast.
Oh yeah.
And like, I hope this is the beginning of it. Like,
it is.
Like, because it would be a lot of fun for us to have more local-ish races. I'm not saying like they've got to do 3 in Pennsylvania, but Wisconsin, like we looked it up, Crandon's a 15-hour drive for us. Like that's probably the furthest we can pull off.
Disney Oklahoma is only 16. It's an extra hour.
Okay,
so Disney would be the furthest.
Right. So Disney and Crandon and Pennsylvania. That's 3 of their 8 races.
Well, they also raced at OAP or AOP in the past.
In the past, yes.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is like, I mean, I don't know if the racers would be up for like adding a race or something.
Oh, they would be.
Yeah.
The guys that I'll talk to, they loved.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone that I talked to loved this course in Pennsylvania. It was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, they were calling it the best Ultra 4 race course other than Hammers. Okay. Which it was because there was like a 60% attrition rate.
Yeah.
Only 40% of the cars that actually started finished.
Hey man, we've made the argument on the podcast more than once. East Coast wheeling. It's
Beats the shit out of you.
It's the real thing. Like, it's none of these grippy fucking rocks through Moab and no trees, no rain.
Yeah, they dealt with
mud.
Hot. It was hot as shit.
Yep.
And then it poured down rain.
Yep. Which just made it hotter.
Just made it hotter and made it slippier.
Yep.
Slippier sounds good.
More slippery.
More slippy.
More slippy. Now we're just making words up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we actually, this will be another episode. I'll have to write it down in my episodes idea. We have a legit idea for Ultra 4 car build.
Yeah.
We're going to build a 46 car, and I'll let y'all think on it. We already own the vehicle.
Oh, do.
Send me a message, comment on the post, let me know what vehicle you think it is. But we're going to get started on that probably after Hammers, do work on logistics for getting there. And then after that, we'll probably start pricing out the build and everything and figure out where the hell we're getting the money from.
This is probably going to sound incredibly naive and ridiculous, but I think for us, physically building the car is the easy part.
Yes.
Affording it is the hard part, and I think the logistics and the business side of a team is the hardest part.
Yeah.
And like,
I can tell you, I work with sponsors and partners now.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Right. Well, and that's like, I mean, I think we're doing a good job at like inserting ourselves into the world.
Yeah.
And it's,
sponsorships being at that,
who not what
I like
you know.
the small, probably the small, they had 100 registered racers in Pennsylvania. I was the only one there. I mean, other than on-site media, there was no like social media personalities, no influencers there or anything.
Right.
Yeah, I was the only one with a tripod in the whole fucking place, other than the guys that got paid to do it professionally.
Right, because Hammers is the glamorous Super Bowl. It's the Daytona 500 of off-road racing. So everybody, it's
all your influencers go there.
It's 100,000 people. It's in the middle of the desert. It will always be the biggest race of the series.
But that's where I got the idea for the exposure. I'm after. I mean, this will come out after I get the Jeep wrapped. But I'm getting the Jeep wrapped.
Yeah.
With podcast stuff, with graphics and everything. And that's because I was on Front Street. I was literally where I parked the Jeep. Was as you were driving to the pits, you saw the Jeep before you saw any of the... you were looking at the race cars first.
Yeah,
but before you saw any of the race trailers, my Jeep was sitting in front of a race trail. I'm like, I have nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing to say I'm here.
Yeah.
So, exposure is going to be the big thing. And
tell your friends, share the podcast.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Share the socials, the website, all of it. I mean, every little bit.
Subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're working on... So, I know we've mentioned Patreon in the past. And that is in the past. I think we are past the idea of a Patreon. I think that time for us has come and gone. What we're working towards now,
I would call it shelved.
Shelved. Okay.
I think if you guys aren't already, join the Dirt Nerds Off-Road Forum group on Facebook. Let us know.
Well, and then
like, do you guys want to see some? We'll call it premium content. We promise.
So what I was going to do
will
with
keep
that,
his pants on.
What I was going to do with that is for the host of the premium content, I was going to do YouTube because you can do YouTube subscriptions.
The platform, I think we would have to kind of figure out for us, but would you guys be willing to pay, a small amount per month to get more stuff out of us? Right. The hardest thing we have right now is the time and the cost to produce the content. If they're like, every little bit makes it a lot easier. So if the loyal listeners are willing to kick in and help, we definit's have some
more stuff.
Really cool ideas.
I spent some money in Pennsylvania, and I'm spending some money after Pennsylvania, and it's to bring a better show.
Right.
Is now I kind of understand it, because I always felt bad. I'm like, I can't.
I think we're 60 something episodes in. Like, we're learning what to do, what not to do. We're able to get access to things that we weren't able to get when we were just amateurs, kicking back beers and sitting in our garages or backyards or whatever it was.
We're sitting. We sit in your basement, or we're sitting in my backyard right now.
Yeah, but we don't sound like it. Maybe the birds chirping in the background. But
I'm not going to call anybody out. But I produce everything,
right?
And I listen to some other shows, not any other shows that we've mentioned in the past.
Oh yeah, but I was listening to a podcast driving out here.
I make an effort to make our audio quality
Right.
so it doesn't sound like it's
Right. Our goal
amateur.
I think our lack of content comes from our desire to make really good premium content. Like, if you guys want to see shitty cell phone videos of things we're building in the shop, like, we'll post it.
Yeah.
It's not it's not what we want to do, and we definitely need a little help to do the really good stuff. Like, we want to do movies. We want to do
like the Story Till Now quality.
right 45
Story Till Now. He just posted something recently, and it is legitimate movie quality production.
Yeah.
He does such a good job.
Yeah.
Which I understand is what you want to do. I'm always on the side of any content is good content.
Well,
but I also see where you're coming from.
I've always used the hot rod side of it, Faster with Finnegan's channel, Mike Finnegan. He does a great combination of things where, like, most of his videos are GoPro cell phone stuff in his home garage, building cool shit, amateur level video. But then every so often he goes to an event. Like he's got the last Hot Rod Drag Week event he did. It's a 2-part, 2 hours per video.
Yeah.
And it's film crew, it's edited, it's B-roll, it's like just really, really nice stuff. And I'd like to, kind of
do a mixture of that.
The
amateur GoPro cell phone stuff.
And if there's content anybody wants to know, like, some of the
if you
educational stuff, like I was just down at Sean with Terra Overland, and like the off-road park he's building is really kind of a neat setup.
Yeah.
Like, we could easily make some really cool content down there, just kind of general driving stuff and
I think
winching things.
If everything comes together correctly, next week's episode will be with Sean from Terra Overland.
Okay.
Because I'm going
talking
down,
about the park.
Talking about the park. I think we're trying to do a wheeling trip. I mean, he's got a big trip coming up too.
Yeah.
So we may have to cancel mine and Sean's wheeling trip together, but I will still get down there and talk to him about the park and everything.
Yeah, the park is really cool. And check them out. Check out their page. See what he's doing with the park. He's still got plenty of space to build some more obstacles, things to change. And
he's going to expand. He's going to expand.
Oh yeah. If anybody listening is local and wants to learn and try some of these obstacles, something a little bit more than a Peters Mill run or a flagpole run, like, that's the place to go. You're not in the middle of nowhere. You're not going to be stranded and stuck for 2-3 days. You're not going to have an expensive tow out if something happens. There's an AutoZone like 3 miles away.
Yeah.
So definitely a great place to learn, and a lot of cool stuff happening, a lot of opportunities for us to make some pretty killer content.
Yeah.
So,
well, cool, man. Thanks for coming after your busy day. Actually, down with Sean doing some maintenance.
Yeah. Doing Jeep things.
Thank you to all of our listeners. Shout out to Tad. Like I said again. So I mean, I'm not going to harp on it. I'm gonna do another.
You're harping on it. You mentioned it like 5 times.
I'm gonna do another interview with Tad, but I enjoy.
It was a week interview. It's still gonna be a good episode.
It's still gonna be a good episode.
Enjoy it. Feel free to just bash Tim on the social media.
Oh yeah,
It'll be fun,
drop some love for me.
Yeah.
But thank you again to everyone at the race. Looking forward to going again. Enjoy our episode with Tad Dowker and NorthShore Race Works. I'm still out here at Reading, the famous Reading Rumble, or Reading Rumble, because everyone gets mad if you call it Reading. The famous Reading Rumble, Ultra 4 race. I got special guest Ted Dowker, first 4,400 guy I've ever talked to. How the hell, or introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi guys. Tad Dowker here, part of NorthShore Race Works. We race a 4,400 car, mostly the East Coast series and King of Hammers. Been doing it. I think this is our 3rd season here. We drive a Trent Fab chassis, and just started out for fun here with some guys, and trying to make it competitive and compete with the guys that are leading the sport.
Yeah. So I was talking to the guy who was in here. I guess it's his trailer, his RV.
Yeah.
He said that car is Dave Cole's old car, named Bambi.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. A little history on the car. One of my teammates, Chris Pive, and myself. Got the opportunity to go drive King of the Hammers in a rented car. So we drove a bomber chassis. And
I didn't even know it was possible. I didn't know you could rent a car for Hammers. That's pretty cool, pretty unique.
Yeah, so basically we had a rented car. We went and ran Hammers one year and basically got hooked and decided that we should get our own car. So just did some looking around, and we're just decided to go straight axle for the simplicity off the get, and obviously the cost of maintaining the car. And we're looking around, looked at the Miller chassis, talked to Eric Miller, and then ended up getting a pretty good deal on this one from Dave Cole. And he was the second owner of the car, to my knowledge, too. So we didn't change the name. We just kept it on there, and been rolling with it since.
So what piqued your interest about Ultra 4? Why did you just rent a car and race hammers? Is that your first race? Ultra 4 was hammers. What's your background with off-road motorsports?
Yeah, so my background is pretty similar to a lot of my friends, is rock crawling.
Okay.
Most of my team is originated from meeting them at Michigan Tech. That's where I went to college. So I've got the number 906, kind of represents the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
The area code, I assume?
Yeah. So we all just good buddies out four-wheeling, fixing our stuff, breaking our stuff, having a great time, and that just kind of evolved. King of Hammers is always like literally a bucket list thing, right? I wish one day I could go run that, And the opportunity came around, we did it, and enjoyed it, and did pretty well for our first go, and I basically just hooked. It's something we got to do. It's that much fun, and it's very trying and everything else, but at the end of the day, it's a blast to hop in that car and go tear around.
What was your first? You might have already said it. What was your first year in the sport? When did you actually start?
I think we've ran hammers 4 years now.
Okay.
5 years.
So 2019-ish was when you got in?
The year before COVID, I think it was our first year that we ran the rented car, and then
came back the next year with this car.
Came back with our own car, yeah.
That's awesome. So rock crawling, are you a Jeep, Toyota guy? What do you what's your recreational vehicle?
I'm a Jeep guy. I built my first Jeep. Started building when I was 14. My dad was always a Jeep guy. So built a CJ7. It's my first car in high school.
My first car in high school was the CJ7 Renegade.
I still own that. I call it the OG. I still take it out rock crawling.
Nice.
But it's been through, same as everybody else has been through 20 revolutions or revs of the same product. But, it gets around pretty good, and it's always it's been my thing, and I love it. Love going out and hanging out with the guys, and probably got to do more of it. Racing takes away from that a little bit. But
yeah, from the guys that I've talked to, the racing, once you get into racing, you no longer do recreational stuff because all your time is absorbed in your race car.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a struggle, and every year we say, hey, we got to go rec wheeling more, and we've done a little bit this year, but definitely got to plan a couple more trips.
Yeah, I've got the same thing. As I don't do any of the racing. This is my first Ultra 4 race ever. But getting into it, I could definitely see my Cherokee sitting in the driveway and rotting away. I just got a Wrangler to come out to these events. The white Wrangler that's sitting next to Schooley's tent or Schooley's camp is mine, and I bring that out here. It's got 33s on it, and that's the way I get when I come up to the events. I try and take back roads or fire roads. So at least I get some dirt road action. But
yeah.
So you have a marina or a dock works or NorthShore Dock?
I got an engineering degree from Michigan Tech. Went and did that for 10 years, and then when I was in high school and college, I always did dock and hoist. We live in a very heavy lake area, and there's a ton of need for marine services, and I did that in high school and college, and then I got a real job, as you call it.
Yep.
And still realized I was broke. Started that company on the side, and it's just kind of grown into this massive thing. So just do that full time now. We got 70 to 80 employees.
Damn.
And
that's a big company. 70 to 80 is a big company.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's very heavy in the spring and fall, obviously with the winter. So spring and heavy fall, so it can be challenging making some of the races. Sometimes we actually don't go to a couple of the races just because of the schedule.
Do you guys compete for points, at least in the East Coast series? It's hard in the Ultra 4 series because it's such a competitive series, and it's all over the place, and it's every other month. So do you guys compete for points in just the East Coast, or do you guys do both?
We've only really competed for the East Coast so far. This year we're planning on going out to Disney as well. We really enjoyed that race last year, so that potentially could put us in a decent spot in the West, depending on how that goes. But it was just a really fun race, and we want to go to that one again. But we actually the first couple years I did this, it was a lot of late nights. you work all day, hang out with the kids. I got 3 kids that are 11, 7, and 3.
Is everyone here with you?
Yeah, they're all here with me. Probably out there going crazy. But yeah, so there's a lot of sports and activities and everything else. So my race car time is usually, after 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So, and that gets kind of old. And about a year ago, we brought on a full-time, he works usually, 30, 35 hours, a week. So his name's Jay. He's one of my buddies we met up in college. And so he works for the team full-time, helps keep the car prepped, helps keep all the routine stuff going. So that way I can still get some sleep at night, and it's helps evolve the team to make us a better team too, right?
So at that point you officially have an employee. Would you consider yourself a professional race team? Because I had that conversation with George earlier. I'm like you're here, you race, you've got the cars, you're a professional race team, but like not 100% professional.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting line right there. I don't do it 100% for a living, obviously.
Yeah,
I have a hard time.
I don't think you can do it 100% for a living unless you're.
Yeah,
I don't see anybody making money racing.
Paul Wolf's, he's racing 100% full time, but
yeah,
unless you're going out and winning every race, I don't know that you can fund it unless you literally just have a full bank account somewhere to make this thing keep going. But I'd like to say that we're trying to be professional, right? Like we're taking the steps. I'm 100%. In the fact that races are mostly won in the garage, right?
Yeah.
This kind of racing, the car has to be prepped to such a level for every single race that if you don't put that time in, your chances of being able to run in the top 3 to 5 is very, very minimal. That you go out and you drive that car as hard as you can for 2.5 hours and hope you can keep it together.
Yeah.
And if you don't do the diligent work back in the shop, your chances of that are going to go way down. So to me, that's just helping evolve our team to bring us to another level.
To be more competitive. In the most competitive class, I'm surprised jumping in, you jump straight to 44. A lot of guys jump 46 or 48. What was the drive for 44?
Yeah, the drive for 44, to be honest, is just, a couple things. You're kind of on the edge of the technology. We got active shocks on our car and some other stuff going on that helps us compete. But the biggest thing to me is you're competing against the most talented drivers. There's really good, I'm not saying there's not talented drivers in every class, but there's a larger group of talented drivers in the 4400 class. So I think to jump into there and run against those guys and see where you land is it's very exciting. And I was humbled, very very humbled on the first couple races I did. You go out and you practice and you're like, oh yeah, I'm moving pretty good, and then you go out there at race pace and you're getting your doors blown off.
When you raced Hammers, did you when you ran your car at Hammers, what did you race 44 in your bomber chassis?
Yeah, we ran 44. Okay. So I've only run 44 as a driver. I've co-driven in a couple other classes, but only raced in 44. And the pace is insane. I remember one of the first races I drove in Tennessee. I clipped a rock on the first lap and it blew a hydraulic steering hose. So, we hooked, walked a mile down the hill, got a new hose, put it back together, and let's just get some laps in, finish the race. And I was coming around and they said the leader is coming behind me, is Eric Miller. So, we get into the woods and I kind of scooted over so he'd get by and didn't hold him up. And I'm like, I'm going to stay with this guy, right? Whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to stay with this guy just so I can see the pace and understand. Well, about the time I got done thinking I was going to stay with this guy, he was already out of sight. Crazy pace. He was probably a third again faster than we were running that year. Yeah. And there's a lot of adjustments as a driver and on the car that you got to make to get to that pace. And we've been kind of closing in on that over the last couple of years. But these guys are very, very talented. Their equipment's very good. And it shows when you're out there on the course.
Did you have any experience racing in a car or in a boat since you got the marina thing before you jumped in that car back in 2018 for your first Hammers? Or were you blind just coming up straight off the street from a Honda Civic or whatever?
No, I've never done any actual racing other
That's
than
so wild.
just rock crawl competitions is the only thing I can compare it to, timed ones. It's not point system, it's just timed. But no, it's literally just go out there and see what you can do. And the hardest races to adjust to is the West Coast stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like you go to Hammers, you hop in the car and you're like, hey, let's go run in the desert. Okay, sounds good. Again, the same thing. You're driving, you think you're hauling the mail, and then somebody blows by you 30 miles an hour faster, and you're like, I'm not even close to where I need to be. So the biggest thing there is just getting practice time and seat time on the other side of the country, or finding somewhere local that you can kind of simulate that and get some time in the car to get adjusted.
Yeah, the nice thing about Johnson Valley is it's open all year. You just have to drive 30 hours for you to get there.
Yeah, it's
with
about,
your race car.
Yeah, when we haul the tow or like the race trailer and everything out there, it's usually about 40 hours with stops and everything. So it's a commitment. I mean,
yeah, you can't just go out there and test and tune for a fun weekend.
No, we've actually left the car out there before at Dave's Ranch. Like taking it out there, tested, flown back, go out there again, test. And you really got to do that stuff too. Like if you want to go there and compete or have any chance of competing, you got to do your homework and put your time in.
So did you dabble with boats at all? Or was it you had no interest, you just did the marina thing? And
No, I mean, that's just our income base. I mean, I love the water. We have a awesome, beautiful area in northern Michigan, crystal clear lakes. That's our weekend jam. My wife and kids, we hop on the boat, go to the sandbar, go swim and have fun. I do a lot of bass fishing too, so it's an awesome recreation area for that, but I've never
done the speedy boy thing on the boat?
Yeah. I mean, I love competition. I do bass tournaments, and I've done different competitive things my whole life, and I love competition. So when you add that to anything, it's that extra drive to be better and try to win everything. But it's definitely a challenge in this series.
Yeah. So with today's qualifying, how did y'all place?
I honestly didn't. It's probably one of my worst qualifying runs I've had. The qualifying is scheduled like 8 to 11, so we're thinking we're going to go sometime between 10 and 11. So I showed up at the track at 9 o'clock, and they were almost through the 4,500 cars, and there's only 4,800 cars. So we literally, threw our stuff on and warmed the car up, went over there. Our time was okay, but the problem is we didn't, like the first corner, they're cutting way inside, and we pre-ran it wide last night, and I thought we were 25 feet from center line, but I guess in qualifying you just drive where you want. But usually we'd go down there and watch a little bit, and we should have caught that. That's it's kind of our mistake, but I think we're starting around 10th, somewhere in there. So long race.
How many 44 cars? How many? Jeezy. How many cars are here? I'm having trouble speaking.
I believe there's 21.
Okay.
I think usually you're right around 20 to low 20s on the regional races. Definitely some heavy hitters though. Paul Wolf's out there. He's always crazy fast. Josh Blyler, Eric Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys kind of set the bar. So we're just trying to run at that pace. And there's quite a few spots out here you could easily make a mistake. So it's going to be an interesting race. The course is awesome. It's got a little bit of everything. So I think we're going to have a good day. Just got to be patient. And the Joker line is going to be a big play too, because it cuts off.
Because y'all have to go up the hard line.
Yeah, I don't. We pre-ran it. It's not actually too bad to drive through it. It's got flowing water.
That one rock with the big undercut that could hang a few people up if you slide down that hill a little bit.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with those lines is just get yourself slowed down. I always tell my co-driver, when I get to these technical spots, make sure I get the car slowed up. You go from flying to crawling, you got to make sure you get that adjustment so you don't have a bad hop or get off your line and get stuck, brake, winch. You got to avoid those things. So, but the Joker line itself isn't that hard to drive. It's like flowing water down through there. The rocks are all cleaned off. There's lots of traction. But it does cut off a ton of the course, so you can use that line to strategically get some clean air or pass somebody in front of you. So that's
your plan is to, because you only have to run it once, but you can run it more than once, right?
No, you got to run it once, and you can only run it once.
Okay.
So, sometime in those laps you got to mix that in there.
Do you have a strategy for that?
Yeah, we usually communicate during the race to see, because you want to make sure it's not jammed up, right? Yep. You don't want to pull in there and have somebody stuck. And then also you want to use it to your advantage of, hey, there's 3 cars all packed up in front of you. If you take the Joker, you're going to get some clean air, or, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of, game day. decisions, and everybody else is probably doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It is nice to kind of get out of the way early too, but it's really just comes down to where you're at on the course and what moves you need to make to put yourself in a position to get up on the podium.
Yeah, it seems like from the guys that I've talked to about the Joker line is that they were planning on hitting it early. At least I haven't talked to anybody else in the 44, so I can't speak for you, but the guys that I've talked to that aren't in 44, they're talking about hitting it early to get it out of the way so they can just run fast and clear the rest of the race.
Yeah, I think if we were starting in the top, 5, we probably would definitely hit it early, but starting back a little bit, it might be a bit, more strategic of how to get around a couple people without, single file.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of good passing spots on these style courses, so you usually got to get up and get on the horn. Most time you can't even hear the horn, so you got to give somebody a little tap, but you got to do that carefully, when you're zipping through the woods.
Don't roll anybody or push anybody in a tree or anything.
Yeah, and everybody out there, they're all out there to have fun and go fast and everything else too, so just got to respect what they're doing and try to get around them clean.
How do you feel about the last 2 miles of this race? Because talking to the guys racing UTVs, racing 46 and 48, they're like the last 2 miles are absolutely the hardest part of the race. You go into that. It's different from a 44 car because it takes everything, but
it's definitely the hardest part of the course. We were out pre-running and just driving around, and I'm like, man, they said it was gonna be harder. I was kind of getting disappointed, and then we got to that last little bit, and you're like, oh, there it is.
There it
Sweet,
is.
yeah.
Found it.
So I'm excited. I wish it was kind of dabbled throughout the course, but yeah, the end, it's challenging. You can't just mindlessly drive through there. So you got to pick your lines. It could easily become a trail plug in a couple spots. So we looked for obviously alternative lines. There's not many, a couple spots, there's not many drivable alternative lines that literally, hop out, pull a cable, drive up a vertical rock and get around somebody. But
a few this or that's on the course, so you can make your decision if something's clogged up or you want to pass someone, you can try and pin it a little harder and go around them.
Yeah, but the last couple miles is really nice. I think it's going to be fun and really, get the full spectrum of what this place offers. I like seeing challenges. I'd like to see the courses continue to get harder, especially the 4400 cars, It'd be nice to have some split offs of the main trail or running some harder sections and running them repeatedly instead of just, ripping around through the woods. So I like to see that kind of stuff. And it is right before it's the last 2 miles. So that's more than likely if you're going to get a flat or break, it's before you're coming in here to pits and everything. So it's located on a good section of the course for that. But I do think it's going to cause a lot of headache. It's hard enough that if you're not paying attention, you could easily break the car, roll the car over. It was really snotty the other day, and if we get any rain, it's going to be more of a point and shoot, right?
Yeah,
there's a chance of it crawl tomorrow, up it. I think. So there's enough mud and clay and stuff mixed in there where a little bit of rain, it gets really slippery, and you'd have to work at it. And it's when you get those conditions, it doesn't take much. One little bad bounce off a rock or hop, and you can be sideways or rolled over. So it's going to be interesting, and it'll be cool to see how it plays out and what kind of pace everybody decides to hold in those harder sections.
With the 44, because like I said, I've very, very little experience with the 44. Are the guys pretty not accommodating, but pretty respectful? If you see someone behind you, it's not a position race, it's a timed race. Will people let you pass, or do they get competitive and try and outpace you at that point?
For the most part, everybody's pretty good. Obviously, when you get into those top couple of positions towards the end of the race, they don't necessarily just pull over. You got to let them know you're there. But most people take consideration whether you're behind them, let you around. There's always a couple drivers out there that will jackrabbit you, or you'll beat their rear bumper and you get to a clean.
What's jackrabbit? I've heard that term a bunch. And I don't know what it is 100%.
Yeah, so to me, you're going through the woods. It's clean. It's not dusty, right? But there's nowhere to pass, right? There's trees, so you just tap them. They know you're there, and then you'll come out to like an open field or a open road where it's dusty, right? And you'll pull out there, and this is where you typically would pull over and let them by, and they'll just hammer down, and then you can't catch them for a minute because it's dusty.
Yeah.
And then you get to the next section and you catch them again.
Oh, so it's just a dirty move. Not a dirty move, but it's dusting them out. So
yeah, I mean, to me that's usually pull over, right? Like if it's me and you tap me, I'm gonna get out of your way. I'm gonna pull over first chance I got. But yeah, if you light it up out there and try to start racing again, you'll see people do that, and then they'll usually start overdriving, which is kind of uncomfortable too, because then you're trying to get up and tap them again. You can tell they're overdriving their car, but
or overdriving themselves. It's probably pretty hard to overdrive a 44 car because they're.
Oh, you can overdrive them.
Okay.
You can overdrive your skill set. You can overdrive the course. You can always overdrive. So a lot of times you get somebody to tap or something, you can see them, physically pick up the pace, or try to then outrun you, and you can tell that they're driving harder than they're comfortable.
Yeah, and that's when they make mistakes, break the car.
Yeah, and you don't want to. Obviously, you don't want to be bumping on them if they're already at that point. So to me, I love being courteous to people, and I love it when people are courteous in return. Again, if you caught them, you're already in front of them, so why not let them by?
Yeah.
But yeah, most people are really good about it. But yeah, there's always times you'll have that
competitive
situation.
Race, and a lot of the guys you're racing with are professional race car drivers, so they want to get past. They got the pride on the line, and they got sponsors watching. So
yeah, I think it's just a respect thing, and if you need to, you can always give them the bumper. I mean, it's super uncomfortable the first couple times you do it, but you get used to it after a while. So yeah.
Yeah, was it this Hammers or last Hammers? Someone gave him a bumper, cut the spare tire off, cut the spare tire strap, lost a spare tire somewhere on the racetrack.
Yeah, I've seen that multiple times before, and I personally have had instances where we've literally beat the rear bumper off of a car before. You bump a guy 10, 12 times, and they're not getting out of the way. It happened to us at Hammers a couple years ago, and it was super frustrating because there was nowhere to pass, and yeah, how many times do I got to bump you? And you don't want to damage your car. I hit him hard enough the last time that I put a hole in my front bumper, 1 3/4 chromoly, and he finally pulled over for us. But, anytime you're running, you right out on somebody's rear bumper like that, either you're literally just following their line because you can't see anything other than their car. So it's kind of a nerve-wracking situation of, you can fall back in the dust, or you run right on their bumper, and follow their line and hope they don't screw up or hit something, because then obviously you're going to hit it too. But yeah, it's part of the sport, and one of the things we all got to respect and work around.
Tell me a little bit about Bambi, about your car that you have. Is Tube Chat, you said it's not a bomber, it's a Trent Fab.
Trent Fab car, yeah. So this is a one-off car that Trent Fab built. The guy that owned it before, Dave Cole, I was told is a pretty big guy. So this car, the chassis is 3 inches taller, wider, and longer, like in the cab section.
Okay.
All the suspension points are the same as a standard Trent Fab car, but it's pretty roomy. For a race car, it's quite comfortable, and it was built more as a desert car.
Yeah.
So for Hammers, we have 2 fuel tanks we can run in it. We take the one out for most of the season because we don't need that much fuel, but it's got a lot of weight. You can easily put weight behind the rear axle. And it's built just like most of the straight axle cars. We have a LSX motor. Josh West does all our engine tuning and helps with our motor stuff. He's been phenomenal. Then we run Tom Parks does our transmission. We made the switch to a 4L80.
Okay. Went electronic. Went away from the turbo.
It's manual still.
Okay.
So it's a manual shift, reverse valve body, but you have the 4 gears, and then we put a custom gear set in it. So we have a 3-to-1 first, and then you have the overdrive, and then we run an SCS case, so we don't have a Atlas where we're shifting. So that allows us to have a wider range in there. Like at Hammers, we'll run like a 146 or 142, somewhere in there, like low range, and we just use first gear in the rocks, and your second through
not
fourth.
As low as I thought it'd be. A 146 is
that's most of the 4400
really?
guys running around 1.5 on their low range. 2-to-1, some guys, but most guys are in that range. Because you're not really crawling, speed, right?
Yeah.
There's very few spots where you're actually crawling. You're once the big rocks or something you'll edge into and get the tires up over and then go. But yeah, it allows you to, we're not shifting all the time. The SCS is way stronger than the Atlas. You can change the ratio, so each track will adjust the gears to match the track. Off-Road Research is who we worked with on the shocks. So our coilovers have active dampening, so they actually make adjustments on the fly.
Nice.
And we also have a couple settings that we can adjust on the dash in the cab as well. If we're not comfortable or something's doing, certain sections are way different than others, we can make an adjustment in the cab. But those things are very awesome and allow us to do stuff more comfortably or run faster paces, with a variety of terrains. We've been running Mickey Thompson since we started. Those guys have been phenomenal.
I love Mickey's.
Yeah, we started with those guys and basically just had like their rock crawl tire, and they've been really, really good to work with. And we've evolved that tire over the last couple of years.
Do you work directly with their
engineering department? Yeah, we got a couple guys, Ben Anderson and Robert, that we work with over there, and they actually came out with a full race program this year.
Oh, nice.
So there's a lot more guys running them. But the tires really evolved over the last couple of years, the compound, the sidewalls, and they got us a tire that we can really be competitive on, because that's usually the limiting factor on 4400 is keeping tires on the car and how hard you can run without blowing tires.
What size tire do y'all run? Just a 40?
We run a 40. Mickey is coming out with a 42 and a 44. They've actually released them last year for like DOT tires. We displayed some at SEMA last year, the 44s.
Are you guys running DOT tires? You guys running stickies?
We're running stickies, yeah. So they're going to be pouring some more. We'll probably be doing some testing at Hammers this year on the 42s.
It's a big tire.
It's a big tire. It'd be interesting to see how the rest of the car holds up. But that's the one spot that I think it would be a large benefit is that. Yeah. And the other thing you can do is you can run a bigger wheel. So if you go to a 20-inch wheel, it gives you a lot more room for a brake package, because the brakes on these cars are smaller than they should be, really, but it's all you can fit in a 17-inch wheel.
Yeah, 17s aren't huge. Yeah.
So yeah, it allows you to put a bigger brake on there. So it'll be interesting to test those and see where they go. But they're coming out with that for us to test. So looking forward to doing that.
Cool, man. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up here, but I appreciate you letting me stay at your camp for the first night. That was wild. I was expecting George and Cameron and all those guys to be up here, and they were still doing some tuning on the car. We actually just fixed the car before qualifying today. We put plugs in it, spark plugs, and did a full tune-up, check the fuel system. But they were doing some more diagnostics of the house yesterday evening when I got here, and I'm like, I've got no idea what the hell to do. I kind of abused your phone number. I gave you a phone call, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. This is my first race ever. Can I just set up next to your trailer, hang out with you guys? You guys have a house or something down the road.
Yeah.
And you said sure. And I really do appreciate it. It was a cool experience. It was actually a really quiet night. It was so quiet I went to Walmart, bought a book, and kind of sat outside and read. But
that's awesome. Yeah, anytime, man. And I did want to mention too, like a couple of our sponsors, like Warren. Warren's been with us since we started. Those guys are top notch. They help a ton of the Ultra 4 teams. Raceline, we've been using their wheels since we started too. Those things hold up great. And then Baja Design Lights. Those guys. We don't have a lot of night races, but when we do, it's obviously good to see.
Yeah, we love Baja. We have a 4x4 off-road shop in Northern Virginia, and that's all my buddy sells is Baja Designs.
Yeah, they're awesome. And AMSOIL, we use AMSOIL both, on our race program. I use it in my personal stuff, and we even use it at our marine shop. Like, that's all we sell in all the boats. Every boat we service and work on gets that stuff. It's top notch. Can't say enough good things about those guys. And then obviously just all my crew, man. I can't come out here and do this without my friends and family and crew. Jay, Dave Williams is like our crew chief. So he donates his time to come out here and help us and make this thing a reality. And then my wife and kids, they come along when they can and really put up with me doing this. So my son, actually, I should plug him real quick. He's 11 and he's racing the 170s.
That's right. I was told to ask you about that. He's racing for the kids series.
Yeah. So last year,
side by side, right?
Yeah. Last year we were at a race and he's seen them and he's like, "Dad, what are those?" I'm like, "Those are 170s." I'm like, "You want to race?" He's like, "Yeah, that'd be cool." And I actually bought one, just like a stock one last year, and he was running it around. And then I bought kind of a race one. And we got that at Hammers this year, and he's been racing it this year. So he's kind of at the top age for the 170s. So I'm hoping they open up another youth class. But
what's the next step for him? Is it just to get to the
currently you got to jump all the way
class?
up to the stock, but there's discussions of making a class between the two. You know, so like a 12 to 16-year-old could run. You know, whether it's an 800 or 1,000 non-aspirated or something, just so there's a step in between there, because obviously they don't belong on the course with those guys or holding those guys up.
They don't need to be on the whole course with the Hammers guys down racing the whole lap or whole 3 laps, whatever they run.
And there's gonna be a big pace difference too, right? You don't want to hold up you don't want somebody coming twice as fast behind you. But it would give a good platform for them to learn the sport and learn how the cars handle and how to fix them and all that. But he just learned how to fix his. We had a local race a couple weeks ago, and he tried to pass somebody on the inside, and they cut down a little bit, and then he cut way down, and he hit probably about a 2-foot vertical embankment at wide open on that thing, and the tires were touching the body when he came out of the dust. So he learned that one the hard way, but we got it put back together, and I'm excited for him to go rip it around here. And just see that continue on.
Yeah, those UTVs are pretty cool machines. We have one in our pit that they were pre-running in, and it shredded a belt. So I got a quick lesson in how to change a belt on a UTV. They're powerful little machines that do everything you need them to do, and they're everywhere. I assume you pre-run in a UTV.
We do sometimes. We ran a 1 lap here
in the car.
A 1 lap in the side by side, and then we ran the race car the rest of the time. But yeah. No, they're pretty functional, and they're obviously a good tool. So
cool, man. Where can people find you at? Social media, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff.
Yeah, everywhere. It's NorthShore Race Works, NorthShore one word, Raceworks one word. Instagram, Facebook. We got a webpage, YouTube. But just trying to grow the team, keep this car up towards the top. We're probably looking to build a new car in the next year and a half to help get us to the next level. But
so if you're looking to buy a car in the next year and a half, reach out to NorthShore because they'll be selling one.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah,
unless it's going to be a backup.
We'll have a tried and true car. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably end up keeping it a little bit till we get a new car built and tested. You know, I don't like jumping in without a tested car, but yeah, we're getting there. So.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it. To all of the listeners, you know where to find us. Dirt Nerds Off-Road, the Dirt Drive Podcast, and Dirt Nerds Motors. Check it out. Thank you, Tad, for joining me, and thank you for being so hospitable. I look forward to seeing you run tomorrow and seeing you again at Hammers.
Yeah, sounds good. I appreciate your time, and
thanks, man.
We'll do our best to put this thing on the podium tomorrow.
Awesome.
Are you enjoying this podcast? Do you want more ridiculousness from the Dirt Nerds? Check out DirtNerdsOffroad.com. It'll link to all of our social media, as well as our YouTube page, and you can pick up some sweet merch to help support the podcast and other adventures.